All righty,
No
there we go. Welcome,
Many
everybody.
times.
We are live. We are live, I tell you, live. It's good to be live. It's good to be live. Welcome, everybody, to our 141st current event show. Eventually, we are going to get it down to, a million. I can't wait. But for right now, we're at 141, and welcome. This is our current event show where we talk about what's ever on our minds based on current events and how it affects us in our lives. It's an opinion show, so everything you hear is an opinion. So do your own research. And I want to welcome everybody, including the panel. But before we get started, just one bit of housekeeping. If you want to join the panel, DM me from any of the social media that you're following it on. And the other thing I will say is that we are now on so many different aspects of social media that you would be hard pressed not to find us. So I believe we just got picked up on Spotify. We are now on Apple Podcasts. We are on YouTube. We are on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook, Twitter, a few other places. So it's easy to find us. And just remember, you could be part of the panel. Just DM us. And if you're watching us on any of the media, please give us a thumbs up. That would be really helpful to help other people find the show. And of course, subscribe. And with that in mind, welcome everybody. Today is, what is today? February 1st? February 1st. And it's 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and welcome. So before we get into what I want to talk about, let's welcome everybody and see if anybody has anything that they want to talk about. That's good. I guess we have to do a little more pre-planning in the pre-show. But today we are going to talk about one thing. We're going to talk about how to build great wealth. Now, I might not know what I'm talking about here, but there was an article in a magazine called The Street, Real Money, and I thought it was really interesting, and I will share that with you. So stick around if you want to learn how to create great wealth, all right, by compounding your money. And I'm sure everybody in this room knows what we're talking about. Money is one of those things, boy, that, it's like the easiest thing to do is spend money. I'm really good at spending money. As a matter of fact, I'm so good at spending money, I could do it in my sleep, and I usually do. So I'm sure you're in the same boat. All right. One thing that I saw, which is really cool, you know how when you sign up for something on the web and you really don't want to be bothered with it, you just want to sign up, you it over and done with, and you never care if you hear from them again. Well, there is a free temporary email service, and it's called 10minutemail.com, all one word, 10minutemail.com, and it'll give you a email address that disposes of itself in 10 minutes. So it's like Mission Impossible, with the tape. So that's basically, so if you want to sign up for something and you don't want it to come to your own email and you don't want to be bothered with it, it's great. It's called 10-Minute Mail, and it's a free tip right there. So does anybody know what I'm talking about in that respect?
Well, that's the first time I've heard of it.
No, I mean, you know what I'm talking about? You sign up for something, and the next thing you know, you get bombarded with emails.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
That's why.
Yeah, so this way, this eliminates that. But, you can't do it. It's only 10 minutes. Remember, the email only lasts for 10 minutes. That's why it's called 10-minute mail. So there you have it. Something that you can use in your future. Well, I guess the big news is the Super Bowl. I guess it's the Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Anybody have any comments on that?
Tickets are selling for $5,000 each.
Fly, Eagles,
Stairs.
fly.
5,000.
Are those discounted tickets you're looking at? I mean, it's crazy. That's
the
5,000
rooms have
each.
not been filled up.
So is anybody planning on going? Anybody working it?
It'd want to be a comfortable seat for 5K, wouldn't it?
I'm going to be in Florida during it.
This is in Arizona this year, I believe. And
Yes, it is.
so at least the weather will be good. It won't be freezing. But Super Bowl is not just the Super Bowl. When you go there, it's a whole event. It's a whole festival of things that go on. They've got the NFL pre-show going on outside. One of our friends does that event, Steve Sluter, Corporate Lighting. He does a lot of work on the pre-Super Bowl when people get there so that they have, I think it's called the NFL experience. Isn't that right, Tina?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much to do, but I can't imagine how many people are going to be there and how crowded it's going to be this year. I mean, people really want to get back out, and I think they've had record attendance this year at all football games, right?
Well, keep in mind that beyond that, the Barrett-Jackson auction, antique auto auction, just finished up. They sold $190 million of cars. And right before the Super Bowl is the Phoenix Open, which is one of the most well-known, and they get 100,000 people on a given day in Scottsdale. So yes, you're right. There'll be a lot of people.
Now that is a golf tournament, if I remember correctly, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's it. Now, is that being sponsored? That's not being sponsored by the Saudis. I believe there's some problems there with the Saudis sponsoring golf contests.
It's sponsored by one of the green garbage people. I forget exactly who, but
Yeah,
it's
but it's
on TV
PGA.
and it precedes the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but it's PGA. Jade is talking about that other one, the new.
Oh no, it's sponsored by the PGA.
Well, like I said, it's an opinion show, so we could opinionize anything we want. It doesn't matter. We could pull George Santos out of our hats right now everywhere. It's whatever we want to say. That's great.
Wasn't he a pro golfer?
Kurt, you broke up. What was that you said?
And wasn't George Santos a professional golfer?
Yeah, he taught Tiger Woods. I heard that
yeah.
he was Tiger Woods' mentor. At least that's what he said. So it's like, okay. So now look, if you don't want to watch the Super Bowl, I mean, you don't want to see all those acts like Rihanna is playing in the halftime, but you now have an alternative. The Puppy Bowl, 14 or 19, the Puppy Bowl 19. It's the 19th annual event. A Razor Wing, easy for me to say, is the 19th annual event aimed at raising awareness about pet adoption using adorable shelter pups who play for either Team Rough or Team Fluff. The competition airs for 3 hours at 2 p.m. February 12th. So basically, I believe that's directly in competition with the Super Bowl. And it's being put on by the Animal Planet and CNN are both part of the Warner Discovery Network. So there'll be more than 122 puppies playing from 67 shelters across 34 states. It's going to be exciting. And so basically, they'll even have a pregame show. So with, I think Dan Schnauzer is the host there. It's like Pepe Le Pew will be there as well. So I'm making that up. All right. What's the difference? Anyway, so you got something to do. If you don't want to watch the Super Bowl, it's the Puppy Bowl. All right. There you go. Anybody planning on watching the Puppy Bowl?
I watched the replay.
Yes. Good idea. So anyway, as far as Las Vegas goes, because we do emanate from Las Vegas, at least supposedly we do, even though I'm not really there right now, but Tina is. But here's some news in our industry, which is pretty cool, is that Cirque du Soleil has 3 shows that are reaching a pinnacle of anniversaries. The Michael Jackson show, Michael Jackson 1 at Mandalay Bay, it's celebrating its 10th anniversary in June. At the Bellagio will be 25 in October. And Mystere, the original one, is going to be 30 on Christmas Day. And that is very impressive what they've done and how many shows that they put off. And all over the world, they've got Cirque shows. I would assume that everybody in the room has seen at least one Cirque show in their life.
I can safely say that I am probably the only person that you've met who has seen the very first Cirque show in the U.S. I did their opening night party when they were still living in tents.
At the Santa Monica, California?
Out in the Japantown, in downtown L.A. They came from Montreal. They had never been out of Montreal before. And they came to L.A. and they had their opening night. They had the green, the blue and yellow tent. And I'm outside for the party afterwards. And I put my speakers on sticks, and I'm listening to this music with subwoofers and, emotional mood. And I'm saying, what the hell? This is a circus. What the hell is this? And I got to watch them rehearse. I got to watch the show. I got to meet Guy Deliberatere, or whatever his name is, who formed it. And they were communal eating. They were poor. They had no money. He's a billionaire now, right? They had no money. And I said to him, listen, this is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Can I get tickets? And he said, yeah, come Thursday night. So I brought Myrna and Aaron. Lauren didn't want to go, so I brought another friend, and I went and watched. And it was, these European kind of people with those kind of hats, and the smog on the ground, and they go down into the smog and they disappear in the fog. And then they come up with new outfits on and they put on the show. And it was like, holy crap, circus is theater. This is amazing. I told everybody I knew, and then went on to become Cirque du Soleil famous, and then what's his name? Put him in Mystere, Steve Wynn, and changed Las Vegas.
Changed Las Vegas. Now they're almost in every hotel. There's a Cirque show in almost every hotel. By the way, has everybody here seen a Cirque show or know about him?
I've seen several.
The one thing that's the most amazing thing about those shows is the performance of the show. Every one of those performers are in the ultimate physical condition. Except maybe the clown that comes out in the beginning, but even him might be but it might be a fat suit that he's wearing. But other than that, everyone who performs in that show is of the ultimate physical perfection of a human body. Excuse me. So it's like their art is spectacular, what they can do with their bodies and how they can form their bodies. And it's basically, it's beautiful with music and with costuming and with set design. But the ultimate aspect of that show is the actual individual performers working as a team to create amazing acrobatics. It's just phenomenal.
And the other thing that's wonderful about Cirque du Soleil is that except for the Beatles show, it's all live music. No tracks.
Yeah, it is. It's a very exciting, and I've seen the O show multiple times, and every time I see it, it's like a brand new show. There's so much going on the stage that's impossible to see it all at one time. I mean, your mind might be able to grasp it all, that what it sees, but you can't understand everything that you see because of the nuances of all the different performances, and it's sensory overload for sure, but it's a wonderful sensory overload. So I recommend, if you get a chance to go see a Cirque show, run to it. It's wonderful. Music is great. The performance is great. And it's just a theatrical event that I can't recommend high enough. So
the one they had with the horses, I forget the name, Cavalia or something like that, was phenomenal. Phenomenal. I don't know how they got the horses to do all the things that they did. Great.
One thing I never saw that show, but I've seen Ka, I've seen Mystere, I've seen the O show, I saw the Elvis show. I never got to see the Michael G. Say that again, but David?
The one at New York, the adult version of a Cirque
Zoomania.
show. What was it called?
I got to see that. Zoomania, I believe.
Oh yeah, right.
Anyway, the reality is that all of these shows really take physical dexterity to perform, every one of them. But the Ka show, they had this stage that floated in midair and it rotated. So the performers are performing on a floating stage that rotates about maybe 10, 15 feet above the ground. So if they fall off, they're falling 10 feet and it's going to hurt. And when I had my back problem, I ended up going to this surgeon, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know it till after the operation, but he's the official surgeon for the Cirque show in Las Vegas. And I said to him, I guess a lot of people get hurt at the Ka show. And what he said to me, he said, nope, the show that people get hurt the most from is the O show. And what happens is when they dive into the water, the compression of hitting the water is what hurts their back more than anything else of any of the other shows. So most of the injuries from the Cirque come from the O show. I thought that would be an interesting tidbit to share with you guys. So Academy Awards is coming up March 12th. Has anyone seen Everything, Everywhere, All at Once?
Yeah, sure.
What's it about? Without giving any spoilers.
Well, it's multiple dimensions going on at the same time. And the visuals of this movie, of the costumes and the sets and the editing, sometimes the editing is like that, different. What was that? I mean, it's just mind-blowing how this movie goes. I don't know if it really deserves all of that, but it deserves
11. They've been nominated for 11 Academy Awards.
When it comes to editing and costumes and makeup and set design, unbelievable. As far as the best movie, I don't know. It's amazing.
Is it a period piece?
No, not a period piece.
When does it take place?
Like now.
Okay, and who's the stars in it?
Jamie Lee Curtis is one of the stars in it. And the Chinese actress who's finally getting her due, she's nominated. She's been great all these years and 25 years in the business. I can't think of her name, but she's famous.
That's how famous she really is. Okay, we can't think of her name, but she's famous.
But anyway, there's really no superstars in this movie.
Well, very cool, because it's got 11 Academy Awards. And then, of course, All Quiet on the Western Front and Banshees of Inisherin, they both had 9 nominees, both, and 9 nominations, both. And I haven't seen any of those movies.
Well, I saw the Banshees. I'm going to see All Quiet.
Right. I guess these movies now that they're nominated will come back around. But here in Thailand, I just saw a movie called, what was the name of the movie I saw? Tid Noi. And it was a Thai movie. Very, very funny. Very, very funny. You probably never get a chance to see it in the United States. But it was a comedy in Thai. And I read the subtitles and it made me laugh. Funny. It was a good concept. It was about this guy who was in love with his next door neighbor and she didn't know he existed. And that was my real life until I met Bo. And then, that changed. So what's going on with Live Nation? Anybody here had the latest on that? So basically Live Nation, it seems like the CFO went in front of the Senate, Joe Berchtold, and he apologized for the debacle around the tickets for Taylor Swift's tour. But the problem is that it's too late for him. I would really think that the monopoly concerns, and this should affect all of us in the room, from the standpoint of, somebody saying that tickets for the Super Bowl are so expensive, but tickets for concerts are ridiculously expensive, and the artists are not getting any of the money. I mean, they're just getting a mere portion of the money. How is it affecting your businesses? Is anybody being affected by that? Kurt, are you seeing anything in that and up in Washington?
Not yet. I mean, I'm not sure which way it's going to go, whether it's going to be a bunch of little promoters all trying to undercut each other like the old days, or a big promoter trying to exercise, price control. I don't really know how it's going to play out.
Yeah, because basically, if you try to go buy a concert ticket right now, it's ridiculously expensive. It's hard to get the concert ticket at the price that it says on the face value, because basically somehow scalpers seem to get these tickets like almost immediately. Now, of course, if they wanted to fix that problem, it's very easy how they could do it, is all like they do in Las Vegas. You have to show your ID and your credit card that you bought the ticket from when you go to see a Las Vegas in a show. So I'm sure if they really wanted to fix that problem, it would be an instantaneous fix. anywhere else. If they could do it in Las Vegas, I'm sure they could do it in the suburbs of, Maryland or Washington or North Carolina or Florida, wherever they want. All they have to do is say, hey, you bought the tickets, show your credit card when you get here. What do you guys think of that idea?
Or why aren't they doing it?
They
Well,
wanna
because
sell
Live
it.
Nation controls it all and they don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's not in their best interest to change it. They want to sell as many tickets as fast as possible for as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah, so they have this system. They're basically, Ticket Hub, Stubmaster, whatever it is, StubHub. These places are, and there are people with computerized, what's the word I'm looking for? With their computerized programs that just go in there and they just pick up all the
They
tickets.
said bots. Yeah.
And then
Well, sometimes the shows aren't sold out, so I thought the promoters, they hand them to scalpers outside to get more people in there.
Yeah, you always
That was
wonder
the whole
how
purpose.
there could be so many people outside of an event having tickets to sell.
Yeah, because they're always out there.
And it seems to me like it's kind of a risk to go to something, like, for example, if I was going to go to, let's say, see a Raider game, to get to the stadium is not an easy, you have to walk across a walkway that's basically
That's
almost
the Raider walkway.
How far would you say that is, Tina? Would you say it's like a quarter of a mile?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to walk a quarter of a mile. You got to park your car. Parking is a minimum of $30 to park your car. And then you got to get there and hope that somebody's going to sell you a legitimate ticket, because you don't know if these guys are out there that have phony tickets, right? I mean, there's as P.T. Barnum said, there's a sucker born every minute and two to take them. But today, I think there's more suckers being born and a zillion more people to take them. There's so many scams out there, and you really have to be careful. We could talk about that, because I've got some things I do want to say, and I've been reading about all the scams that are going on. And right now it's at an all-time record high of how you have to be careful. But before we talk about that, there is something else I wanted to say, and that is, Bobby Hull, you guys remember who he is? A hockey player. He's a Hall of Famer, Stanley Cup champion. Well, he died. He was 84 years old. He played in over 1,000 NHL games, and he's got the 12-time All-Star finish with over 610 goals and 50 assists, and he passed away at 84. And then, of course, Cindy Williams, she died this week at 75, and that's a heartbreak. She was, everybody loved Laverne and Shirley, and now they're both gone. Both her and Penny are gone. And Ozzy Osbourne, he announced his retirement from touring. It seems that he's got some spinal surgery that he can't get over, and so he just canceled all his tours. And I think, Wayne, you were telling me about somebody who, a performing artist in Australia before the show that passed as well.
Yeah, so sadly, Renee Gayer, who was a great singer, she passed away a couple of weeks ago, and she was just a great singer. But I don't think she was very old. I don't think she was 70. Probably late 60s. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she was a great singer. And they just had some footage, or I accidentally watched it on YouTube, of not long ago, and she was still singing great. But it's always very sad when a great performer passes away, or
Sure.
any human, to be quite honest. But in this case, it was Renee Gayer, and
Yep.
she'd been high profile in the music industry all her life.
Well, and on a positive note, John Mayer is going back out on the road, and so is Nickelback. Nickelback, they just put out their 10th studio album. It's called Get Rollin', and they're doing a 38-date run this summer. So if you're a fan of Nickelback, you'll be able to get to see them. And if you're a fan of John Mayer, and this information is thanks to Polestar. So another person that passed away is this woman named Helia Hutchins. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, in case you don't know who she is, she was the cinematographer that got shot on the set of Rust with Alec Baldwin. And I'm just curious to know what you guys think about this. So they've indicted him now on second-degree murder charges. Involuntary manslaughter, actually, is what and what do you guys think? Do you think he should have been indicted? I mean, do you think that's fair that he would be indicted?
Well, do you think Elton John is supposed to know if the rigging is right when he goes out on a show? It's not his job. That's how I look at it.
Was Elton John on the set as well?
Elton John had the gun.
Yeah, there it is. So Elton John's being indicted now. Okay, no, that's that's.
I mean, if you're a performer of any kind, how much of what's around you do you have to know? He's not the armorer. He was the third in line. So two people who are hired to know told him it was okay. So he thought it was okay. I think that it's just somebody looking to get political points wants to run for something.
The thing that bothers me about this whole thing with Alec Baldwin more than anything else is that, first of all, I don't think that he should be responsible, but he lied to the district, to whoever interviewed him, when he gave testimony. He said that he didn't pull the trigger. Well, it's impossible for a gun to fire without pulling the trigger.
That's not true.
And he really, what?
You pull a hammer back and you don't go past the point where it clicks. That hammer is still going to fly towards the bullet. It's whether or not it's got enough force to ignite the bullet. And that's the FBI said no, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I think they should get, when you do this on a gun, when they used to fire like that, it was enough to turn the chamber and the hammer had enough power to kill the bullet. And that's without pulling the trigger. So you see,
you have to hold the trigger down for it to fire, and that's the best of my knowledge. Even if you're
revolver,
fanning it like this, you still have to have the trigger pulled down, otherwise it won't fire because it'll get stuck. In other words, what releases the hammer is the pull on the trigger. So unless the gun was broken, but they didn't find that the gun was broken, and so they found that the gun was working. But the interesting thing is, of course, the armor is being also she's also up for a count of involuntary manslaughter. But the interesting thing is they never found out how those live rounds got on the set. There's no way. So that would be my number one question. How did live ammunition get on the set? And right. That person should be the one responsible. But they're busting Alec Baldwin and the armorer. The armorer I can see has responsibility. But how did those bullets get on the set? Anybody feel that he should not have been indicted?
What about the first assistant director who got the gun from the armorer and told Alec Baldwin it was a cold gun? And he just pleaded guilty to some thing where it's house arrest or probation. How did they get away with that?
Well, that's the question. That's why I'm asking.
That guy should be under indictment also. He cut a deal for what? What did he know that they cut a deal with him for?
Yeah, I guess. Sam, you have an opinion?
Well, I think you don't point a gun at someone. And
you're an actor. You do what you're told as an actor. You don't point a gun at somebody. One of the most famous original movies in the beginning of movies is a cowboy aiming a gun and shooting at a camera.
Right, but he wasn't. The scene wasn't active. It wasn't an active shooting scene.
But the scene was, what was it going to look like when he pointed a gun at the camera?
Difference of opinion.
Yeah, in other words, what I was under the impression they were rehearsing. That was what they were doing. Right. They were rehearsing the scene. I mean, if you look at some of the movies, in any of the action movies, there's guns being pointed at people. There's people being shot. Look at some of the Mission Impossible movies, or the Jason Bourne movies, or any war movie where they're fighting a battle. It's of course there are guns on the set, and it would be unbelievable for anyone to see a movie that didn't actually see guns going off or people being shot at. When you see this, you see any TV show where people die from gunshots, you usually see some really bloody gore, where they've got these blood packs on them that they explode when the guy pulls the gun. And if that was the case, it would take away the believability of that scene. So yeah, it's just part of our lore and in the cinema, but there should be some protection against somebody not getting killed. And the question is, again, comes down to how does live ammunition get on a set? And that is where the challenge is, and they don't seem to be addressing that.
I think that you're quite correct there, Jan. I think, not that I know anything about guns, but I think, or the acting scenario there, but most of the people on that set would have thought that the ammunition was not loaded, were not fireable, if you know what I mean. How did that get there? Did it just get mixed up in? Because it's a bit hard. I don't know how you check whether a bullet will shoot or not. But it must be a horrible thought at the end of the day for all those people on that set they're all, particularly the actor, to think that he's got a gun that he thinks is harmless, and it wasn't. I don't know what anyone else, but I think the biggest mistake is getting live ammunition there. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you completely. Anybody else want to say anything about this subject before we move on?
Going back, one quick question. Wasn't there some issue in one of the Dirty Harry movies back in the years that there was some incident that didn't kill anybody, but it was close or something like that?
Well, do you feel lucky, punk? That's all I could say. Do you feel lucky, punk? You know?
There were some people got killed on the crew when they were doing Apocalypse Now with a helicopter crash. I'm not really sure how that all turned out. Whether anybody went to jail over that or not. I was just trying to look it up, but I can't find anything.
Well, look up Twilight Zone, Vic Morrow.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking about. That's what it was. I don't remember.
What happened, David?
Jan Landy, I think, was the director. And there was a scene where Vic Morrow was carrying a child while a helicopter flew overhead, and something happened and the helicopter crashed and killed the kid. I don't think Vic Morrow was killed. He might have been injured, but it was a big deal. You know, I mean, a helicopter crashes on top of an actor, the two actors, and there was hearings and, you know, all of that. I don't know what the end result was, but it was, you know, it was a pretty big deal. Vic Morrow was a big star at the time, big television star. So that was it.
Well,
Yeah,
there
that's
you
what
go.
I was actually thinking about. But when I was looking, there actually was an accident that killed a couple construction set worker guys or something on Apocalypse Now. Same thing.
Well,
Crash.
Look at some of the I mean, right now, I know I talked about it last week, but that Tom Cruise movie, what he's doing right now, where he's jumping, he's riding a motorbike off of a ramp into the abyss, where, you know, falling down thousands and thousands of feet, where he jumps off the bike at the end and has a parachute. I mean, or the time when he was jumping off of skyscrapers. I mean, there is some very risky stuff that movies do for realism. So yeah, there is a risk involved when you make a movie, but you shouldn't have to worry about being shot in a movie. If you're an actor, you shouldn't have, or a director or whatever, you shouldn't have to worry about a gun going off. And so that's the thing that they have to address, not whether or not it's involuntary manslaughter. I really believe that this is, you know, from what I understand, the guy's going to go off. He's not, you know, he's just not going to get indicted for that, or not the word. He's not going to be found guilty for that. And I believe that what they really are missing the boat on is how did that bullet get on the set? And once they figure that out.
When this first happened, 2 years ago now, or whatever it was, I remember somebody saying that some people were, and they didn't say in the crew, they just said some people were doing target practice, which means there were live rounds on the set. Now, how they got back into the wrong place, and if that's true, it's an opinion. Remember, this is masterminds. But I had heard that they were doing target practice, and that would make sense on how live rounds sloppily got onto the set.
Wasn't there something about people getting fired or being disgruntled about something or being replaced by non-union crews, or I don't remember what it was.
What they said is that some of the guns had gone off already, not with bullets in them, maybe with blanks. And so there were people who thought it was an unsafe set and quit, like camera people.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
But nobody got injured. It was just that there were sloppy controls on the guns already, which they will bring up. That's got to be part of the trial.
Was this a Western or what kind of movie was it?
Yeah, Western, 1800.
Yeah, Western movie. I mean, could you imagine a Western movie without guns? I mean, really, you might as well not make it. I mean, that's all there is to it. You know, it's America's fascination with guns ever since, you know, I was watching, if you haven't seen The Untouchables, was it The Untouchables? Tombstone. I'm sorry, Tombstone. I watched that movie again. It is really, really good with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. You know, I'm not your Huckleberry. Here you go, you know. So I recommend it. If you want to watch a movie from the past that's on, I think it's on Netflix or TV, Tombstone, very, very good movie. And if you thought there was, you know, not enough gun violence in your life, you could watch that movie because there's plenty of it, you know. Wyatt Earp and the,
Gunfight at the OK Corral, right?
That's exactly correct. That's
I don't remember
exactly
any guns in F Troop.
It is balloon. It is balloon. That ages me right there. So, Larry Storch, very funny comedian.
I heard that the group that is doing the tours of Breaking Bad are considering doing the tours of Rust. Now, how's that?
What does that mean, Sam?
Well, you know, they take people in buses and they show all
bus tour.
the Breaking Bad locations where they were filmed. And they're considering doing the same thing, you know, in New Mexico where the Rust set took place.
Oh, that would be an interesting thing if I had nothing better to do with my life. Hey, there you go. Anyway, one other thing that I wanted to talk about is like, you know, COVID is back in the news, but it seems like it's over. So, but they're recommending right now. So I'm going to read this from the updated COVID-19 boosters are cutting the risk that a person will get sick from corona by about half. The research from the CDC shows for adults between the ages of 18 and 49, studies show that COVID boosters lower the odds of getting a symptomatic infection caused by the BA.5 subvariant by 52% and cut the odds of getting an infection caused by the XBB or XBB 1.15 by 49%. So for adults 50 to 64, the new boosters reduce the odds of sick with COVID by 43%. And then for 40% for the XBB subvariants. And for those over 65, the boosters cut the odds of infection with symptoms by 37 and 43% for both of those viruses. So, do what you feel is best for you. But if I had an opportunity right now to get another COVID booster, I would jump at the opportunity. So that's it. You know, there's so many things going on. So, interesting thing happened this week. More than $60 billion, it was announced, $60 billion with a B, have been paid out in fraudulent unemployment insurance claims during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a new report released by the Government Accountability Office. Okay, so $60 billion with a B. And now, this morning, Tina text me. Now, if you guys remember, I went through Bank of America fiasco where they closed my accounts and I had to deal with this. They're accusing me of fraud. $60 billion. And for me, for $26,000, they went crazy and tried to ruin my life. Well, it turns out it wasn't just me. Tina, you want to talk about it? I guess not. Okay, so I'll talk about it. So basically what happened is Bank of America has been sued by the consumer division of the federal government in the tune of $225 million. It seems that what they did during the pandemic is they froze thousands and thousands of accounts fraudulently because they had a faulty filter in their software. And I wasn't the only one. In 37 states, they screwed over thousands and thousands of people to the tune of $225 million. And so now they're paying. And so today I called the Consumer Protection Bureau and filed my claim against them because they're going to be paying retroactive damages as well. So I'm hoping, and I'll keep you informed of what happens with that. So That's a little bit of good news after I had all that bad news with Bank of America. And I'm no longer with them, to say the least, but what the hell? I own some of their bonds. Oh, well. All right, I got a question for you. True or false? Is plant milk healthier than dairy milk?
Depends if you're looking for protein or not. There's certain proteins and some are different.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you right now, there's a perception that plant milk based are better, such as those from oats, almonds, rice, and hemp, are more nutritious than cow's milk, but it turns out that it's not true. So there you have it. Another thing is, here's another thing that I never knew, true or false. Which is better for you, fresh fruits and vegetables or canned or frozen varieties?
Fresh.
I got you speechless there, eh? Well, it turns out
Tasty ones.
it turns out that fresh fruits and vegetables are always healthier than canned, frozen, or dried varieties. Despite enduring the belief that the fresh is best, researchers found that frozen, canned, and dried fruit is just as nutritious as their fresh counterparts. So canned vegetables, frozen vegetables, they just found out is as nutritious as fresh, but I would rather eat fresh any day of the week than canned. All right.
What happens when you cook? What happens when you cook them?
Well, what happens if you cook them too much? You cook out the nutrients. So you want to steam your vegetables, right, Kurt?
Yeah, or blanch them, one of the two.
But they do taste better when they're fried and sauteed, man. I'll tell you, yummy.
I usually blanch it and then dump it in some garlic and butter and just finish it in there.
So are baked beans better for you, cooked or not cooked?
Well, if they can't be called baked beans if they're not cooked, because then they would be baked. See, so that's my opinion, but it seems legitimate right here.
They
So
just
I'm
be
only-
beans.
It
So
depends
I'm
on the
only just
campfire you're cooking them on. You got the blazing saddles campfire, you know.
So I'm just warming them up. So they're already cooked when they come out of the can. Is that
Are you
correct?
carrying them on a little stick with a bandana?
No. They're tasty chaps, but with a bit of pepper on them, or a bit of cheese, or with your eggs, poached eggs. Yum. But I've always wondered whether when you cook them the second time, do they lose their nutrition? Because they're supposed to be good for you. Apparently, you can live on baked beans without any other food groups. I don't know if that's a true statement or not.
Well, it doesn't matter here whether it's true or not. You know, you just remember this show's been presented to you by George Santos, so it doesn't matter what we say. You know, do your own research. Everything's an opinion. But here's something that's interesting. The CNN reported that the Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare in Helsinki found that visiting nature 3 to 4 times a week was associated with 36% lower odds of using blood pressure pills, 33% lower odds of using mental health medication, and 26% lower odds of using asthma medications. So basically, you know, get out there and visit nature, and we'll throw the link into the chat on that as well. That's pretty cool.
That include
The
loading
thing is,
docks?
I didn't hear that, Kurt.
Are loading docks part of nature?
No, I wouldn't say. Well, it depends how green they are. If they're green loading docks, maybe. You know. The other thing that I will report is exercise takes 10% off the age of old mice muscles, and that was also something, the study that just came out this week. So get some exercise and get outside in the real world, where it's nice and healthy in the woods, and you'll feel better for it.
Exercise your mice, right?
I thought
That's
they
right.
figured out how to make mice live like 3 times their standard life cycle.
Well, last week we reported that the Harvard Medical School has found the switch for aging in mice, and they are now testing it in human samples and primates. And so it's very possible that in our lifetime, if we live another 10 years, they will be able to reverse our aging process. It might not be all at once where they're going to be able to reduce our age, but what they can do is be able to cure some diseases by reversing the age process in the cells, so that if you have cancer, they could reverse it so before the cancer was there. That will be exciting, and that will extend life. And that's a really good thing if you got something to live for, So there you have it. You heard it here first. Let's see. What else? Exxon smashes Western Oil major earning records. They made 56. Listen to this. Exxon in 1 year made $56 billion in profit in 2022. That's an average of $6.3 million per hour profit. No other company has ever made that kind of money. I mean, is that outrageous? I mean, am I the only one that finds something wrong with that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the worst part about it is I don't own any Exxon stock, so I didn't share in that. But the reality is it's crazy. How could gasoline be so expensive if a company is making $56 billion profit? How is that not being addressed?
It's because they know they can charge as much as they want and get away with it. That's all. That's what it is.
I think you need to look at their balance sheet and see what's going on, because there could be other things tied to that in time that would be, like it could be, and like Kurt has the same thing right now too, is the 179, the bonus depreciation. It could be a lot of things that could show up that they could be grabbing and making a difference right now.
Well, they're saying they made $6.3 million per hour profit. So even if it's the balance sheet, I guess they just, I guess they're just doing it from a math standpoint of view of they took the billions, divided it by hours and minutes, and that's how they're saying it. But, it's just crazy amount of money. I'm not making anywhere near that. I don't know why I didn't go in the oil business. Oh, well, I made a mistake there. All right.
Just go in your backyard and do what Jed Clampett did and start shooting at the ground and see if you get oil shooting out of the ground.
Well, the chances are you don't own that rights anyway anymore. Usually you have to give up all your rights. Did you know that you have to give up your rain rights? I didn't even realize that you don't own the rain that falls on your property. If you own a house and it rains, you can't claim that rain in certain states. It belongs to the government.
I thought it belongs to the clouds.
Well, evidently the clouds are owned by the government too. That's it. So meanwhile, United States is $31.4 trillion in debt right now. And in case you guys don't understand that, I can make it really simple for you. The U.S. government sells bonds, right? That's what it is. And something like 85% of this debt is in bonds that they've sold. They've sold the bonds, and they've used the money for the bonds to do whatever they're going to do with it. So 85% of this money, people have invested in the United States government, and usually it's big entities like other governments and big funds, big funds. And the other part of that money, the other 15% of that money is bought by other parts of the government, where they have bought government bonds as well to put their money in. So like, for example, Social Security and Medicare, they buy the government bonds, and 15% of all that debt is owned by Social Security and Medicare on the other side. And these are already paid for. So the people have invested in U.S. government bonds, and that's where this debt is. And so they need to raise the debt ceiling because the government has spent more money than that. That's what it is. In case you don't understand what it is, I just thought I'd explain it to you. I'm sure I didn't explain it as well as some other people could, but if you didn't understand it, that's where the debt is. It's not. It's in the U.S. bonds, and that is the challenge that we're facing as we come up. So. I wanted to talk about compounding money, but before that, I really need to cover this story because it's really important for everybody. 37 million T-Mobile customers were hacked in November during a data breach, according to the regulatory filings on So basically, the wireless carrier said the hacker stole consumer data that included names, billing addresses, emails, phone numbers, and dates of birth. No social security number, credit card information, or passwords, or other financial information were exposed in the hack. So basically, 37 million, that means I'm one of them. I have Identity Guard and I have Experian monitoring me, and I have now found that my email address is now on the dark web. So what I recommend for everybody is always maintain your security passwords so that you change them. And I found a great website called security.org/how secure is my password. And there's a hyphen between how secure is my password. So it's how hyphen secure hyphen is hyphen my hyphen password / so security.org, and it will show you how safe and how long it will take to crack your password using the latest computer software. So that's something that you want to check. But basically, I also want to say this. I read this great article and I thought I would share it with you. How to protect your accounts from fraudsters by taking a few simple steps. In honor of Cybersecurity Month, we're reaching out to inform you about ways to safeguard your accounts. So install reputable antivirus software on your devices. Be sure to enable automatic updates. This prevents fraudsters from using malware installed via phishing email or phishing emails, whatever it is. And that's number one. Be aware of social engineering scams. Fraudsters will sometimes pretend to be IT or security personnel from well-known companies and request remote access. Don't give them and don't grant them your password. And enroll in two-factor authentication. Now, why did I say that word wrong? Who wants to help me with the word? Authenticate your password using the two-factor automation. All right. So that's one way to help you from getting scammed. And whatever you do, if you get an email from somebody with a link and you're not expecting it or a detachment, do not open it without calling them first and saying, hey, did you send me this attachment? Don't open it up, and don't send them back an email saying, hey, did you send me this attachment? Because if it's a fraudster, they're going to say, yeah, I sent it to you, and so make sure you call them rather than sending them an email saying, hey, did you send me this? All right. Anybody have anything they want to say about that?
No, but I did want to say to Kurt, in June, I'm going to be up in Seattle.
Oh, yeah?
With Charo. She's doing Gay Pride Day. She's doing a concert up there.
Oh, cool. Do you know the venue?
Whenever that is, wherever that is, it's June. So,
It'll be outdoors. Seattle.
Come on by. I'd like to say hi.
Yeah.
Is she performing with George Santos that day?
He's leading the parade.
Oh, very good. Very good. Anyway, there you go. So is there anybody that wants to say anything about anything right now before we say goodbye to those people who have watched this on social media?
The fraud I get mostly is Facebook account hack imposters. They're trying to pretend that there's somebody I know, and then they're trying to get me to sign up for this National Institute of Health stuff. I just play with them for as long as they'll stick around usually.
I get the medical insurance calls, and I get all these other calls about insurance and or credit card and all that crap. I get those calls. I just let them go to voicemail if they're important. I'll return the call. But 99% of them. What's nice about my phone is it'll come up. It'll say a number if I don't recognize. It'll say potential spam or spam, and
right.
I just that's what I like about that. I mean, I have the iPhone. That's what I like, and everything. I had there's that robocall app, and that usually takes care of most of them, but still some get through.
It's more fun to do it yourself, though.
Oh, it is. It's totally fun, especially and if I'm really, really bored, I'll answer it and I'll just mess around with the people and just start screwing with them. Pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's more fun to play the color forms way, is what I say. Boy, that goes back a long ways.
Do we have we heard about Cavlo's schedule this year? Are they doing any events this year?
Yeah, what happened to him?
I believe he is. I believe he is. I will get Mike on next week to talk about it. I'll call him and ask him to do a paid political announcement for himself.
Next week, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. Well, next week is the 8th. We'll be on the 8th, and then 8 and 7 of 15. So we'll be on the next week. We could make it our Valentine's Day show. What does that mean? We all wear red, or, bring flowers? I don't know.
Dress up fancy.
Yeah, dress up. Well, that ain't gonna happen. All right, that ain't.
We all have a, or we all pour a bottle of red wine and start drinking on the show.
That could get messy by the end.
That's every week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Yep, that's every week.
Well, next week we'll talk about what we're doing for Valentine's Day. Everybody will come in and give us some ideas of what to do, or some gift ideas for Valentine's Day. So bring your gift ideas and bring your bring your thoughts of what you want to do for Valentine's Day for next week, and we'll cover that. So as I said in the beginning of this show, I wanted to talk about how to build wealth with the power of compounding. Now, I read this great article. It's in Real Money magazine. We'll throw the link in it. It's written by a guy by the name of James Reb Shark Depori, and it's really good. And I want to read a little bit of it, and then we'll put the link to in the chat. And we'll talk a little bit about it. But basically, it starts out by giving a quote from two people. One is Albert Einstein and the other is Ben Franklin. And Albert Einstein is credited with saying, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't, pay it." And Ben Franklin described compounding as money makes money, and that money makes is the best money in the world. I just added that. Money makes money, and the money that makes money makes money. And boy, Ben Franklin was smart. Boy,
So deep.
amazing. So anyway, the guy goes in and says, one of my favorite illustrations of compounding is that if the $24 that was used to buy the island of Manhattan from the Lenape tribe in 1626 was invested in a bond at 8%, that would be worth 44 trillion in 2023. So if you would like a rough estimate of how fast compounding will grow your money, then use the rule of 72. If you divide 72 by the return you hope to earn, that number gives you an approximate number of years it will take for your investment to double. For example, 6% annual return will double your money in about 12 years, 72 divided by 6. If you 12% annual interest, then you will double your money in just 6 years. So compounding is profits, is what built most of the great fortunes in history, but it's misunderstood phenomenon, and many investors fail to use it effectively. The secret to compounding, here's the secret to compounding that most people overlook. You can benefit from it even if you aren't lucky enough to be a great stock and hold it for many years. Good investment selections, but compounding will work for you if you keep your accounts near their highs and consistently produce good returns. So anyway, basically, you guys understand it now. There you have it. I'm going to put the link in the show. Anybody want to talk about money right now?
I'll have some more, please.
Yeah. Well,
I have so much extra. Just want to give. Who wants some? No problem.
Well, there's plenty of charities. And if you do win the lottery, one of the things that is recommended is immediately drop your social media account and hire a lawyer. Those are the two things. Change your phone number and get rid of your social media accounts if you win the lottery. So,
Hey, Wayne, the money's better if you don't cook it.
Well, you could make it. Does that mean you cook it?
Loses some of its value if you cook it.
Oh, rightio.
It shrinks.
Especially if it's paper one.
Anyway, that's it. That's my last story for the day. And so anybody have anything that they want to say
Oh, I
to
can add
the
one.
general public?
Where's the joke of the day?
Oh yeah. Joe.
Well, speaking of money, Jan, my wallet's kind of like an onion, I realized. Every time I open it, I cry.
Well, the joke of the day is a guy gets a call from his doctor, and the doctor says, "Man, I got bad news and worse news for you." And the guy says, "Bad news and worse news." Yeah, the doctor says, yeah. He says, she says, what do you want to hear first? He says, well, let me hear the bad news. And the doctor says, well, we got your test results back and you've got 24 hours to live. And the guy says, that's the bad news. What could be worse than that? And the doctor says, I forgot to call you yesterday.
True
That's
story.
I heard that one from Jeff Foxworthy, actually.
Jeff Foxworthy told that joke?
Jeff, I don't know if it was Jeff Foxworthy, but one of the blue collar comedy shows that they did, or tours that they did, one of the guys told that joke. I don't know if it was Jeff Foxworthy or Bill Engvall. It was I think it was Bill Engvall that did that joke.
Well, I believe that is one of the oldest jokes in the history of the planet, you know. So I didn't somebody had to write it. I don't know who wrote it, but I know I didn't write it, but it's a joke of the day. So there you have it. You asked for a joke, and now you're getting into who told that joke first. That's what I want to know. Who told that joke first? We'll have to Google it to find out. In the meantime,
Copyright jokes?
yes, you can, but it's hard to enforce it.
Maybe George Santos wrote that joke.
Yeah, George Santos. That's exactly who wrote that joke. George Santos wrote that joke. There you go, and that could be a good title for the show. So with that in mind, listen, thanks for watching. We got over hundreds of people watching right now, which I am amazed, and I'm sure you guys are too. We'd love you to join the panel, so just DM me from anywhere that you see the show, and we'll send you a link on how to get into the panel. And the other thing that I will say is if you like the show, or even if you didn't like the show, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and that will help us, especially on YouTube, to reach more people with the good and positive information that we're giving out, and how we make a little bit of light of what's going on in the news today in a very friendly manner. So with that in mind, remember everything you heard is an opinion, and you do your own research. And remember this, you make it happen. We'll see you next week, Wednesday at 5:00 West Coast time. Until then, make it happen.
Thanks, Jan.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And we are off the air.